Hey everybody, Sean McInnes and Mark Walton here at GDC Europe 2013, where we just stepped out of a talk that was all about storytelling in StarCraft II: Heart of the Swarm. And Mark, I think one of the most interesting things about that one is the explanation of why, when so many games are moving away from cinematics and trying to marry storytelling and gameplay as deeply as they can, Blizzard continue to use that formula, and according to them, it's what works best.
Well, absolutely. It was really interesting that Brian, who'd done this cinematic, was saying that he worked on Mass Effect 2 as well, and how if they'd done the same thing in StarCraft that they'd done in Mass Effect 2,
Right, exactly.
it just wouldn't have worked, because it would have broken that immersion.
Yeah, your character is so customizable,
Exactly.
You tweak one small element, all of a sudden, the cinematics are busted.
So you've got this really old school sort of, you know, back in the day we used to call them FMVs, right? Like old school FMVs in StarCraft. But they were saying that, you know, that because the sort of RTS playing field is so, the characters are so small, it's so difficult to identify with them, that you have to have that cinematic there in order to convey the story.
Yeah.
You know, I think I can see that. You know,
Right,
definitely.
yeah.
You know, you're playing like StarCraft and you're just clicking around, and sure, there are loads of people dying and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But they're faceless soldiers. You don't identify with them anyway, and so that ability to humanize the characters and get that stuff done was what was really interesting.
Yeah, because the camera is just so removed in your standard RTS game.
Absolutely.
And the other interesting point that he mentioned is that it gives it like a larger presence in the method of storytelling. In music terms, it's like putting it higher in the mix, right? Because when you're playing the game, RTS players are so engrossed in all like the minutia of what's going on that he actually said that you need to repeat a line 5 times for a player to hear it once, which I thought was interesting. And
I'm going to be looking out for that now, though.
yeah, right, exactly. But I think that kind of reflects like the way that you're just in the zone when you're playing an RTS game.
Absolutely. I think you know, that ability to elevate the story much higher with the cinematics was probably my biggest takeaway from it, because I think when I think back to all the times that I played these RTS games, and I think back to like, remember the old days of like Red Alert and Red Alert 2 with those crazy like cinematics. I mean, they were real life, but there's still those sort of FMV things, and it was just, I think, yeah, actually, you know, without those, I would have just never given a crap at all about that stuff. And those weren't even the best told stories. So, you know, when you got someone like Blizzard who are a great storyteller, then it's really interesting.
And it was also really cool to see just like the process that goes into revising these cinematics, because you look at them in a StarCraft II game and they're just like these incredibly detailed cinematics, and you can tell there's a lot of budget and time
So much money.
that goes into something like that, and they can't afford to screw this up.
Yeah.
So they need to treat it incredibly delicately. And so he talked about just the process of coming up with this rough hand-drawn animatic, revising it at least 13 different times
13, yeah.
over the course of a year before they actually got to where they wanted it to be.
So it took a year, and that was what was that, like a 5-minute cinematic, if that?
It may be more like 2.
2 minutes. So, you know, a year to do a 2-minute cinematic, that's crazy.
I know, absolutely. But what sort of helps guide them along is just focusing on one central idea.
Yeah.
In the case of Heart of the Swarm, it's that Kerrigan represents anger, while Jim Raynor represents hope. So, like, anytime they kind of stray from where they want to be, they kind of return to that. And according to them, that's what guided all the cinematics of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I think that he was saying about all that central idea stuff, and he was giving like the audience loads of lessons on how to sort of be a team player and all that sort of stuff. And you know, it was just really nice to get an insight into how Blizzard works.
There you have it, guys. That's about it for our Blizzard recap here at GDC Europe 2013. But we'll be bringing plenty more of these your way, so stay tuned.